The sun was bright over Rodeo Drive at 11:30 a.m. when Maya Johnson's nightmare walked through the door. She was helping a client select a Hermes handbag, her practiced smile in place, her movements graceful despite the dull ache in her ribs from 3 nights ago. The bruises were hidden under her long-sleeved silk blouse. She'd gotten good at hiding them. 4 years of practice made you an expert. "This one is exquisite," she told Mrs. Chun, a regular client. "The craftsmanship is extraordinary, and the color will complement your entire spring wardrobe." Mrs. Chun was nodding, reaching for her black Amex, when Maya saw him through the glass storefront. Derek, her husband, stumbling slightly, eyes bloodshot, face twisted with that familiar rage that made her stomach drop. "No, not here. Not at work." He pushed through the door, and the expensive perfume-scented air seemed to curdle around him. The soft classical music couldn't drown out his heavy breathing. "Maya!" His voice was too loud, slurred with alcohol. "Get out here. Now!" Every head in the boutique turned. Maya's client stepped back, uncomfortable. Her co-workers exchanged nervous glances. Maya felt the familiar cold fear wash over her, the terror that had lived in her bones for 4 years. "I'll be right back," she told Mrs. Chun softly, setting down the $15,000 handbag with trembling hands. She couldn't let him cause a scene inside. If he started yelling, throwing things, hitting her in front of customers, she'd lose this job. This job was the only thing she had left, the only piece of her life Derek didn't completely control yet. Better to take it outside. Better to handle it quickly. Better to survive. "Let's talk outside," she said quietly, walking past him without making eye contact. Eye contact made it worse. Eye contact was challenging him. She'd learned. She stepped onto the sunlit sidewalk. The Southern California heat hit her immediately. Rodeo Drive was alive with people. Tourists with cameras, wealthy shoppers with designer bags, business people rushing to lunch. The street that represented luxury and the American dream. And Maya was about to be beaten on it. Derek followed, his footsteps heavy behind her. She walked a few feet from the door, far enough that people inside couldn't hear clearly, close enough that she could run back if needed. She turned to face him, keeping her expression neutral, her body language non-threatening. All the survival tactics she'd learned. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. His hand shot out and grabbed her arm. His fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. More bruises to add to the collection. "Why the hell didn't you cook breakfast this morning?" He was shaking her, his breath reeking of alcohol and cigarettes and cheap perfume, Amber's perfume. "I came home and there was nothing. Nothing. What kind of wife are you?" Maya's mind went blank with confusion, then bitter understanding flooded through her. He didn't come home. He'd been gone for 2 days. 2 days at her house. His mistress, the woman whose name Maya didn't even know but whose existence she was never allowed to acknowledge. He'd spent Maya's paycheck on her, slept in her bed. And now he was standing here accusing Maya of not having breakfast ready. The injustice of it burned in her throat. Words fought to get out, screaming to be said. "You weren't even home. You were with her. You're always with her. You spend my money on her while I eat ramen for dinner." But she knew better. God, she knew better. Last time she'd questioned where he'd been, 6 months ago, she'd asked innocently, "Where were you?" "I was worried." He'd broken 2 of her ribs. The time before that, when she'd seen Amber's name on his phone, he'd given her a black eye so severe she couldn't see out of it for 3 days. She'd learned. Questions equaled pain. Silence equaled survival. "I'm sorry," she heard herself say, the words automatic, bitter as poison. "I didn't know you were coming home. I should have prepared something just in case. I can make whatever you want tonight." "You're sorry." He was screaming now, right on Rodeo Drive, right in front of Gucci and Prada and Tiffany's. People were stopping, staring. Some were pulling out phones. "Sorry doesn't feed me. Sorry doesn't make you a decent wife." His voice was so loud, so deliberately humiliating. This was what he did. He came to her workplace to destroy her in front of people who respected her, to remind her that she was worthless. "You're a failure," he continued, shaking her harder. "A complete failure as a woman. What kind of wife doesn't have food ready for her husband?" Maya's vision was blurring, from being shaken, from tears, from shame. A crowd was forming. She could hear whispers. "Is that her husband?" Should someone call the police? Oh my God, is he going to hit her? But no one moved. They never did. People would film, would whisper, would post it online later, but no one would step in. Derek, please. She tried to pull away, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. People are watching. Can we please talk about this at home? Wrong thing to say. Always the wrong thing to say. His face went purple with rage, veins popping in his neck. You're embarrassed I'm here? You think you're too good for me now because you work in this fancy store with these rich people? The slap came so fast she didn't see it coming. His palm cracked across her face with a sound like a gunshot. The impact snapped her head to the side. Pain exploded across her cheek, white hot and stunning. She tasted blood. Her lip had split against her teeth. The sidewalk tilted. The world spun. She was falling, her knees hitting the concrete hard enough that she felt the skin tear through her dress pants. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. Phones were definitely filming now. This would be all over social media in an hour. Maya's palms hit the ground, scraping, bleeding. Her vision was swimming with tears and pain. Derek's hand tangled in her hair. Her carefully styled hair that she'd spent 30 minutes on this morning. He yanked her head back viciously, exposing her throat, his fist raising above her. This was it. In broad daylight on one of the most expensive streets in Los Angeles, in front of dozens of witnesses filming on their phones, he was going to beat her unconscious. Maya closed her eyes, bracing for the impact. Then she heard it. The door to Cypher & Company opening. That soft mechanical whoosh. But this time it sounded different. Louder. More deliberate. Like fate arriving. Maya's eyes opened. A man stepped out onto the sidewalk, and the world seemed to shift around him. She'd never seen him before in her life. She would have remembered him. He was tall, at least 6'2", wearing a suit that probably cost more than her car. His black hair was slicked back perfectly. His face was all sharp angles and dangerous beauty, high cheekbones, strong jaw. But it was his eyes that made her breath catch. Dark, intense, absolutely lethal. And he wasn't alone. 2 massive men in black suits flanked him immediately. Bodyguards. Professional, dangerous. The stranger's voice was ice and death. Touch her again and you die. It wasn't a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. Derek's hand loosened in her hair. Maya heard him make a sound, not quite a gasp, almost a whimper. She looked up at Derek's face and saw something she'd never seen before. Pure, absolute terror. His face had gone white. Completely white. He recognized this man. He knew who this was. The stranger walked forward slowly, deliberately, his bodyguards moving with him like shadows. Each step was measured, controlled, dangerous. Get your hands off my employee. Now. Employee? Maya's mind spun. Who was this man? Derek released her, stumbling backward, but tried to save face. This is my wife. This is between us. This is my property. The stranger's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. It carried absolute authority. You're assaulting someone on my property. Leave or I break your bones. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The bodyguard stepped closer. And suddenly Derek was surrounded by 3 men who looked like they could snap him like a twig. Derek's bravado crumbled. This isn't over, he said, pointing a shaking finger at Maya. You're coming home tonight. We'll finish this. The stranger stepped between them, the bodyguards creating a wall. No, she's not. Derek looked at the 3 men. Looked at the growing crowd filming. Looked at Maya on the ground. Then he ran. Actually ran down Rodeo Drive like a coward. The stranger turned to Maya, extending a hand to help her up. She flinched instinctively, and something flickered in his eyes, recognition. Anger. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly. She took his hand. His grip was gentle, warm, completely unlike Derek's violence. When she was standing, he examined her face. She could feel the handprint burning on her cheek, could taste blood from her split lip. His jaw tightened as he saw the old bruises on her arms. Thank you, Maya managed, her voice breaking. Thank you so much. But, who are you? Jean Kong. I own this store. I own all the Cypher & Company locations. Maya's world tilted again. You're the owner? I've worked here for 8 months. I never knew. I don't come to the stores often. But I was upstairs in my office. His eyes held hers. I heard everything. His jaw tightened. How long has this been happening? And Maya broke. For years of terror, of pain, of silence all came crashing down. Always, she whispered through sobs. It's always been happening. Jin's expression went deadly calm. Come inside. We need to talk. Subscribe to Mafia Heart Tales if your heart just broke for Maya. He beat her in broad daylight on Rodeo Drive and no one helped. Until the mafia boss stepped out with bodyguards and said, touch her again and you die. Hit that like button and comment. Did you feel that moment when Derek ran away like the coward he always was? The next chapter reveals why Jin saved a stranger. His answer about power versus abuse will give you chills. Share this video and turn notifications on because Maya is about to tell him everything. Jin's office was nothing like Maya expected. She'd worked at Cypher & Company for 8 months and never knew there was a private office above the boutique. The elevator required a key card. The door was unmarked. And when it opened, she stepped into a space that screamed power. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Rodeo Drive. Leather furniture that probably cost more than she made in a year. Abstract art on the walls. This was the owner's office. And she'd never even known it existed. Sit, Jin said gently, gesturing to a chair. She sat, her whole body shaking. One of the bodyguards, a massive Korean man with a scar across his cheek, handed her a bottle of water. The other stood by the door like a sentinel. Jin dismissed them with a subtle nod. They left, but she could hear them just outside. Jin sat across from her, not behind his desk. Equal height. Non-threatening. Every movement calculated to make her feel safe. I'm sorry, she started, because that's what she always said. I'm so sorry about the scene, about Derek showing up. I never wanted. Stop. Jin's voice cut through her apology. You're apologizing to me? Yes? You're my boss and my husband caused a scene and your husband assaulted you on my property. Jin leaned forward, his eyes intense. You have nothing to apologize for. Maya's mouth opened then closed. She'd been apologizing for Derek's abuse for so long. She didn't know how to stop. Why did you help me? The question burst out before she could stop it. You don't even know me. I'm just an employee you've never met. Why risk getting involved? Jin was silent for a long moment. Then he said, you want the truth? She nodded. I have more power and connections than most men will ever dream of. His voice was matter of fact, no arrogance, just stating reality. I built an empire. I have people who would kill for me with one word. And I've never raised my hand to a woman. He looked at her directly, and she felt pinned by those dark eyes. Your husband has nothing. No job, no power, no respect. And he abuses you. Do you see the difference? Maya couldn't breathe. No one had ever said it out loud like that. Jin continued, his voice harder now. Power doesn't make men violent. Cowardice does. Weakness does. He feels powerless in his life, so he hurts someone weaker to feel strong. That's not strength. That's pathetic. But why do you care? Maya's voice broke. Why risk getting involved? He could. He could what? Jin's smile was cold. Call the police? I have lawyers who would bury him. Try to hurt me? I have security. Try to hurt you again. His expression went deadly. That would be the last mistake he ever makes. I don't understand, Maya whispered. I can't watch someone get hurt on my property, in front of my store and do nothing. If I have the power to stop it and I don't, what does that make me? He leaned back. I won't abuse my power by using it against the innocent. But I will use it to protect them. Something in Maya's chest cracked open. This stranger, this dangerous man who she'd never met, understood something her husband never had. Power without cruelty. Strength without violence. How long? Jin asked quietly. How long has he been hurting you? And suddenly it all came pouring out. 4 years. 4 years of hell that started small, angry words, thrown objects, holes punched in walls. Then it escalated. A shove became a slap. A slap became a punch. A punch became her waking up in the hospital with broken ribs. She told Jin about the pattern. How Derek would disappear for days at a time, staying with his mistress, though Maya was never allowed to say that out loud. How he'd spend Maya's entire paycheck on God knows what. How he'd show up at her workplace during business hours just to humiliate her, to remind her that he owned her. Every time I asked where he'd been, he'd beat me, Maya said, her voice hollow. Broken ribs, black eyes, split lips. I learned to stop asking, stop questioning. Just accept whatever he said, whatever blame he put on me. Jin's hands were clenched into fists, but his face remained calm. Why haven't you left? Maya laughed, and it was a broken, bitter sound. Where would I go? He controls all the money. My paycheck goes into a joint account that he monitors. He isolated me from my family in Atlanta, told them I was too busy to visit, screened my calls until they stopped trying. And I was afraid. She looked at Jean, really looked at him. He said if I ever tried to leave, he'd kill me. And I believed him. After 4 years of watching him hurt me over and over with no consequences, I believed he could do anything. Not anymore, Jean said quietly. What? You're not going back to him. Not tonight. Not ever. Maya shook her head frantically. You don't understand. He'll come looking for me. He'll hurt you. Jin's smile was absolutely terrifying in its coldness. Let him try. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Prepare the guest apartment on 5th. 2 guards, 24/7 rotation. Yes, immediately. He looked at Maya. I have an apartment I keep for business associates. It's secure, it's comfortable, and as of right now, it's yours. I can't. You can. His voice was firm. Maya, listen to me. Derek recognized me today. He knows my name. He knows what my name means in certain circles. He won't touch you while you're under my protection. What does your name mean? She whispered. Jin's smile was sharp. It means he'll leave you alone. Trust me. I can't pay you. I'm not asking you to. Consider it employee benefits. He stood. Take the week off. Paid. We'll figure out the rest. Right now you need safety and space. He handed her a business card with a personal number written on the back. Call me if you need anything. Day or night. The guards will be outside your door. You're safe now. Maya stared at the card, at this stranger who'd saved her life, and felt something she hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope? Meanwhile, across the city in a cramped apartment that smelled of cheap perfume and stale cigarettes, Derek was raging. Who the hell does he think he is? Derek threw a bottle against the wall. It shattered, and his mistress, Amber, a bottle blonde who knew he was married and didn't care, jumped. Who is this guy? Amber asked, examining her nails. Why are you so freaked out? He's connected. His name carries weight. People don't mess with Jean Kong. So? You're her husband. You have rights. Derek's eyes gleamed. Yeah, I do. She's mine. No one takes what's mine. Especially not him. He grabbed his phone. If Jean Kong wanted to play hero, fine. Derek would show him what happened when you stole another man's wife. He dialed 911. I need to report a kidnapping. Subscribe to Mafia Heart Tales if you're crying right now. 4 years of abuse. 4 years of broken bones and isolation. And Jean just told her you're safe now. Hit that like button and comment. When did you realize this story is about more than romance? It's about surviving? The next chapter. Derek calls the police claiming Jean kidnapped Maya. Will his lies work? Share this and turn notifications on because the legal battle is about to begin. Detective Sarah Chun had been with LAPD for 12 years, and she could smell bullshit from a mile away. The man sitting in the interview room, Derek Johnson, reeked of it. So let me get this straight, she said, reviewing her notes. Your wife hasn't come home in 3 days, and you think Jean Kong, the businessman who owns Cypher and Company, has kidnapped her? Yes. Derek's performance was almost convincing. Almost. She hasn't answered my calls, she won't tell me where she is, and I know he has her. He threatened me, detective. In front of witnesses. Sarah exchanged a glance with her partner, Detective Mike Torres. They both knew the name Jean Kong. Everyone in certain divisions knew that name. Suspected connections to Korean organized crime, but nothing they could ever prove. His businesses were squeaky clean, his lawyers were expensive, and his influence ran deep. But kidnapping? That didn't fit his profile. We'll investigate, Sarah said. Give us 24 hours. 24 hours later, Sarah and Mike stood outside a luxury apartment building on 5th Avenue. Jean Kang's lawyer, A sharply dressed woman who looked like she ate lesser attorneys for breakfast met them in the lobby. My client is cooperating fully, the lawyer said. Mrs. Johnson is here voluntarily. She's agreed to speak with you, but I'll be present. They rode the elevator to the 10th floor. Two massive men in suits stood outside apartment 10C, the bodyguards Sarah assumed. Maya Johnson opened the door and Sarah's trained eye immediately cataloged everything. The fading bruise on her left cheek, the way she held her ribs when she moved, the fear in her eyes that wasn't directed at them but at something else. Someone else. Mrs. Johnson, I'm Detective Chun, this is Detective Torres. May we come in? Maya nodded, stepping aside. The apartment was beautiful. High ceilings, modern furniture, city views. Not exactly a kidnapping victim's prison. They sat in the living room. Jean Kang's lawyer sat beside Maya like a protective barrier. Mrs. Johnson, Sarah began gently, your husband filed a missing persons report. He says you're being held here against your will. Is that true? No. Maya's voice was stronger than Sarah expected. I'm here because I'm afraid to go home. Afraid of what? Maya took a deep breath, and Sarah watched her make a decision. Watched her spine straighten, watched her reach for something, courage maybe. Strength. I'm afraid my husband will kill me. He's beaten me for 4 years. Mr. Kong saved my life. Then she showed them everything. Hospital records from 3 different ER visits. Photos on her phone dated time-stamped showing bruises, black eyes, split lips. Screenshots of Derek's threatening texts. Bank statements showing he drained their account repeatedly. I started documenting everything 6 months ago, Maya said quietly. I knew someday I'd need proof. Sarah felt a familiar anger building in her chest. How many times had she worked cases like this? How many women had she seen destroyed by men who were supposed to love them? The incident on Rodeo Drive 3 days ago, Sarah said. Walk me through it. Maya described it all. Derek showing up drunk. The accusation about breakfast when he'd been at his mistress's house for 2 days. The public beating. The slap that knocked her down. Mr. Kong stepped out with his security. He told Derek to leave. Derek ran. That's when Mr. Kong offered me safety. Maya looked at Sarah directly. I wasn't kidnapped, detective. I was rescued. Sarah made detailed notes. Beside her, Mike was doing the same. Has your husband hurt you since you've been here? He can't reach me. The guards. Maya gestured to the door. Mr. Kong made sure I was protected. Sarah turned to the lawyer. We'd like to speak with Mr. Kong. Of course. He's waiting in his office. Jean Kang's office was exactly what Sarah expected. Expensive, powerful, intimidating. The man himself sat behind a massive desk, perfectly calm, while his 2 bodyguards flanked the door. Detectives. Jean stood, extending a hand. How can I help you? We're investigating a kidnapping allegation, Sarah said, watching his face. Jin's expression didn't flicker. Mrs. Johnson is free to leave anytime she wants. She's staying of her own choice because she fears for her safety. I'm providing protection to an employee who was assaulted on my property. Your employee, Mike said. You weren't even in the store that day according to staff. I was in this office. I heard the commotion. I intervened. Jin's voice was matter of fact. I told Mr. Johnson to leave my property. He left. That's all. He says you threatened him. I told him if he touched her again, there would be consequences. Is that a crime, detective? Protecting someone from assault. Sarah studied him. Every word carefully chosen. Every answer legally airtight. Mr. Kong, we know about your reputation. Your connections. Jean smiled slightly. I own 14 legitimate businesses across the United States. My tax records are impeccable. My employees are well paid and well treated. What exactly are you accusing me of? Nothing. They had nothing. We're not accusing you of anything, Sarah said. We're just investigating a concerned husband's report. A concerned husband, Jean repeated softly, who put his wife in the hospital 3 times in 4 years, who controls her finances, isolates her from her family, and beats her in public. That husband. Sarah and Mike exchanged glances. Jean leaned forward. I'm not the criminal here, detectives. I'm just a man who won't watch someone get hurt and do nothing. Outside the building, Mike shook his head. No case. She's there voluntarily, has evidence of domestic violence, and he's got 20 witnesses who saw Derek assault her. Yeah. Sarah looked up at the 10th floor. Call it in. No kidnapping. Victim is safe and cooperating. When Derek got the call that police found no wrongdoing, he lost his mind. Amber watched from the couch as he threw his phone, kicked the wall, screamed until his voice went hoarse. This isn't over, he snarled. She's my wife. I have rights. I'll make them both pay. 2 days later, Derek showed up at Cipher and Company again. Jean was waiting. The bodyguards blocked the door before Derek could even reach it. I want to see my wife, Derek shouted. You can't keep her from me. Jean stepped out, his expression carved from ice. She's not here. And you're trespassing. She's my wife. I have rights. You lost those rights when you put your hands on her. Jin's voice was deadly quiet. Leave. Now. Or I call the police for real this time. Derek looked at the bodyguards, at the growing crowd filming on phones, at Jin's cold promise of violence. This isn't over, Derek spat. I'll destroy you. Everyone will know what you really are. Jean smiled. It was terrifying. Try it. See what happens. Derek left, but Sarah Chen's words echoed in Jin's head as he watched him go. Not the criminal here. Just a man who won't watch someone get hurt. Sometimes the dangerous men weren't the ones everyone feared. Sometimes the dangerous men were the cowards who beat their wives in broad daylight. Subscribe to Mafia Heart Tales if you're shaking right now. The police investigated. They found nothing against Jean. They found everything against Derek. And Maya showed them 4 years of documented evidence. Hit that like button and comment. Did you cheer when the detectives realized Jean was the hero, not the villain? The next chapter shows Maya healing and starting to fall for the man who saved her. Share this and turn notifications on because the romance is about to get real. 6 weeks later, Maya stood in front of the mirror in her new apartment. Not Jin's guest apartment anymore, but one she'd rented herself with money from a bank account Derek couldn't touch. She barely recognized the woman staring back. The bruises had faded. The split lip had healed. But the real change was deeper, in her eyes, in the way she held herself. The fear was still there, but it was smaller now. Quieter. She was going back to work today. The restraining order had been filed. The divorce papers were served. Derek had shown up at the courthouse screaming, and security had removed him. Her lawyer, paid for by Jean though he'd never admit it, said the divorce would be finalized in 3 months. 3 months until she was free. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jean, car will pick you up at 9. No arguments. She smiled. Jean had been different these past 6 weeks. He checked in daily, never pushed, always asked permission before anything. When she'd insisted on getting her own apartment, he'd helped her find one in a secure building. When she'd started therapy, he'd given her the name of the best trauma counselor in LA. He'd saved her life, then stepped back and let her rebuild it herself. But he was always there. Always watching. Always protecting from a distance. The car, a sleek black sedan with one of Jin's bodyguards driving, picked her up exactly at 9. When they pulled up to Cipher and Company, her co-workers erupted in applause. We've missed you. Sarah, her assistant manager, hugged her carefully. Maya spent the morning restocking, helping customers, falling back into the rhythm of work. It felt normal. Safe. Good. At noon, Jean appeared at the top of the stairs leading to his office. Maya. My office. Please. Her co-workers exchanged knowing looks. Maya climbed the stairs, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Jin's office was exactly the same, powerful, expensive, intimidating. But Jean himself seemed different. Less cold. More human. How's your first day back? He asked. Good. Really good. She sat across from him. Thank you for everything, Jean. I know I've said it before, but stop thanking me. His voice was gentle. You don't owe me anything. I owe you my life. You saved your own life. You're the one who documented everything. You're the one who told the police the truth. You're the one who filed the restraining order. Jean leaned forward. I just provided tools. You did the work. They stared at each other, and something shifted in the air. Can I ask you something? Maya said quietly. Anything. Why do you really do this? The protection, the lawyers, the safe apartment. Why? Jean was quiet for a long moment. Then, when I was 15, I watched my father beat my mother until she couldn't stand. I was too small to stop him. Too weak. I swore that day that I'd never be powerless again. Maya's breath caught. I built everything I have, the businesses, the connections, the reputation, so that I'd never have to watch someone hurt and be unable to help. His eyes met hers. You reminded me why I built this empire. To protect people who can't protect themselves. I can protect myself now, Maya said softly. I know. I've watched you become stronger every day. He paused. It's remarkable. The air between them felt electric. Jean, Maya started, but her phone rang. Derek's number. Her hand started shaking immediately. Jean noticed, his expression darkening. Don't answer it, he said. The restraining order. He's already violated it by calling. Let it go to voicemail. It did. Then a text came through. Then another. Then 10 more in rapid succession. Jean took her phone, read them, and his face went deadly calm. He's at the courthouse. He's threatening to. Jean stopped. Call your lawyer. Now. 20 minutes later, they got the call. Derek had tried to attack Maya's lawyer in the courthouse hallway. Security had tackled him. Police had arrested him. He'd violated the restraining order. Committed assault. On courthouse property. On camera. He's done, Jean said quietly. He just ended himself. The trial came faster than Maya expected. Derek was charged with assault, multiple counts of domestic violence, violation of a restraining order, and attempted assault on an attorney. Maya had to testify. She sat in the witness box, Derek 20 feet away in an orange jumpsuit, and told everything. The breakfast accusation. The mistress. The broken ribs. The black eyes. 4 years of documented, photographed, hospital-recorded abuse. Jean sat in the back of the courtroom every single day. She never saw him, but she felt him there. Solid. Protective. Real. The jury took 2 hours to convict. Derek was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Mandatory anger management. Permanent restraining order. When the judge read the sentence, Derek screamed, "She's my wife. You can't do this." The judge's voice was ice. She was your wife. And you lost that right when you beat her. Take him away. Maya watched them drag Derek out, still screaming, and felt nothing. No fear. No anger. Just a quiet sense of justice. Outside the courthouse, Jean was waiting. It's over, she said. It's over, he confirmed. Then, because she'd been wanting to for 6 weeks, because he'd saved her and protected her and never asked for anything in return, because she was finally free. Maya kissed him. Jean froze for half a second. Then his hands came up to cup her face, gentle and reverent, and he kissed her back like she was something precious. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. Actually smiling. I've wanted to do that since the day I met you, he admitted. What stopped you? You needed to heal. Not be saved by one man and immediately claimed by another. His thumb brushed her cheek. You needed to save yourself first. And now, Jean said softly, if you want me, I'm yours. Maya smiled. For the first time in 4 years, she smiled with her whole heart. I want you. Subscribe to Mafia Heart Tales if you're crying happy tears right now. Derek got 3 years in prison. The jury took 2 hours to convict him. And Maya kissed Jean outside the courthouse because she's finally free. Hit that like button and comment. Did you cheer when the judge said, take him away? The final chapter shows Maya and Jin's future. Wedding, family, and helping other survivors. Share this and turn notifications on because the ending will heal your soul. 6 months after the trial, Maya stood in Jin's penthouse kitchen making breakfast. It was Sunday morning, golden light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spread out below like a kingdom. She'd moved in 3 months ago, after Jean had asked her properly, giving her time and space and choice. Always choice. Never control. She heard him before she saw him, footsteps on marble, then arms wrapping around her waist from behind. Good morning, Jean murmured against her neck. Morning. She leaned back into him, still marveling that this was her life now. Safe. Loved. Free. What are you making? Pancakes. Bacon. Your favorite. He kissed her shoulder. You don't have to cook for me, you know. I know. I want to. She turned in his arms. There's a difference. And there was. Cooking for Derek had been survival, fear, walking on eggshells. Cooking for Jean was love, choice, the simple joy of taking care of someone who took care of her. Jean understood the difference. He always understood. They ate breakfast on the balcony, watching the city wake up. Maya had been promoted to regional manager of all Cipher and Company locations. She made twice what she'd made before, had her own money, her own life. She'd reconnected with her family in Atlanta. Her mother had cried on the phone for an hour when Maya told her everything. Maya had forgiven her. Forgiveness came easier now. She'd also started volunteering at a women's shelter, the one Jean secretly funded. She helped other survivors navigate the legal system, document abuse, find the courage to leave. She'd gone from victim to survivor to warrior. I have something to tell you, Jean said, setting down his coffee. Maya's heart jumped. What? I'm legitimizing more of my operations. The Korean businesses. I'm selling them. All of them. Maya stared. Jean, you don't have to do that for me. I know what you are. I chose you anyway. I know. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for us. He took her hand. I built that empire to feel powerful, to never be weak again. But real power isn't controlling others. It's protecting them. Building something good. You taught me that. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. I want a clean life with you, Jean continued. No secrets, no danger, just us. Is that okay? More than okay, she whispered. Jean reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's breath stopped. I know it's fast, he said. I know we've only been together 6 months. But I also know that I don't want to spend another day without you in my life. He opened the box, revealing a diamond ring. Maya Johnson, will you marry me? Maya thought about the last time someone had asked her that question. Derek, 7 years ago. Full of charm and promises he never kept. But Jean wasn't Derek. Jean had never hurt her, never controlled her, never made her feel small. Jean had saved her, then stepped back and let her save herself. Jean had shown her what real love looked like. Protection without possession. Strength without violence. Yes, she said, tears streaming. Yes, I'll marry you. Jean slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into his arms and kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Because to him she was. The wedding was small. Just close friends and Maya's family from Atlanta. Maya wore a simple white dress. Jean wore a suit that made him look like a prince. When they said their vows, Maya meant every word. I promise to never make you feel less than you are. I promise to choose you every day. Not because I need you, but because I want you. I promise to build a life with you based on respect, trust, and real love. Jin's vows made her cry. I promise to protect you without controlling you. I promise to see your strength, not your scars. I promise to give you choice, always choice, and to never make you afraid. His voice broke. I promise to love you the way you deserve to be loved. Completely, fiercely, and without conditions. When they kissed, Maya felt something that had been broken for so long finally heal completely. 1 year later, Maya stood in a courtroom again. But this time she wasn't the victim. She was the witness. Another woman, Jennifer, 26, terrified eyes, sat in the witness box, testifying against her abusive ex-boyfriend. Maya had helped her document everything, connected her with lawyers, walked her through it all. Watching the jury convict him, Maya felt a sense of purpose she'd never known. After the trial, Jennifer hugged her, crying, "Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have," Maya said gently. "You're stronger than you know. I just showed you the tools." Outside, Jean was waiting in his car. "How did it go?" he asked. "Guilty. 5 years." Jean smiled. "Good." They drove home, to the penthouse filled with photos and memories and love. Jean had sold all his Korean operations, focused entirely on legitimate businesses. They talked about starting a foundation for domestic violence survivors. "I have news," Maya said. "What?" "I'm pregnant." Jean froze. Then he turned to her, eyes wide. "You're 3 months." I wanted to be sure before I told you. Jean crossed the room, pulled her into his arms, buried his face in her neck. She felt him shaking. Are you okay? She asked. I'm terrified, he admitted. What if I'm like my father? Stop. Maya cupped his face. You are nothing like your father. You're the man who saved me. You're going to be an amazing father. Jean kissed her. I love you so much. I love you too. 5 years after Jean had stepped out of Cypher and Company and saved a woman from being beaten in daylight, he stood in that same spot, holding his daughter's hand. Grace was 4, with Jin's dark hair and Maya's bright smile. Fearless. Confident. Loved. Daddy, why are we here? Grace asked. Because this is where I met your mother, Jean said. You saved her from a bad man, right? That's right, Maya said, crouching down. Daddy showed me that real love means protecting people, not hurting them. Like how you both protect me? Grace asked. Exactly like that, Jean said softly. They walked into the store. Maya's store now. She owned 3 Cypher and Company locations. Jean pulled Maya close, right where he'd first seen her fall. First heard her cry. First decided he couldn't just watch. Do you ever think about that day? He asked. Every day, Maya admitted. The worst day and the best day. The day I hit bottom and the day I started climbing. I'm proud of you, Jean said. I'm proud of us, Maya corrected. For everything we built together. They kissed, surrounded by the ghost of who Maya used to be. Broken, afraid, powerless. That woman was gone. In her place was a warrior. A mother. A wife. A survivor who'd become a fighter for others. Derek was still in prison with 2 years left. Maya never thought about him anymore. This Jean Grace, the life they'd built, this was her present. Her future. Her forever. And it was everything. Subscribe to Mafia Heart Tales if you're sobbing right now. They got married. They had a baby. Maya went from victim to warrior, helping other survivors. And Jean proved that real power means protecting, not hurting. Hit that like button and comment. What was your favorite moment? Was it touch her again and you die? Or the courthouse kiss? Share this complete story because someone needs to hear that they deserve love that protects, not hurts. Turn notifications on for more stories that prove love conquers all. Thank you for being part of the Mafia Heart Tales family. Remember, you are enough.